Let's bring in our headliner this morning, House Minority Whip Steve Scalise of Louisiana. Sir, welcome to America's Newsroom. Great to have you this morning. The morning after the president's State of the Union address, how did he do?
Well, good morning, Bill and Sandra. And I thought the president did a great job of showing what's great about America, explaining and really highlighting how we became a great nation. Those 3 World War II veterans that were in the crowd. And think about this. One of those World War II veterans stormed the beaches of Normandy. A year later, he liberated Dachau. And then there, sitting right beside him, is a Holocaust survivor who he helped liberate. How special was that? And just to see what's great about our country, but what we need to do to keep this a great nation, the challenges we face, why we need to secure our border. The president laid that out, I thought, incredibly well. It was a positive vision. What we did, the tax cuts, how it's creating success for everybody in this country. And it was interesting that Democrats only stood up when it was their personal success. They sat down when it was success for regular Americans, working Americans. They didn't stand up against socialism when the president said the U.S. will never be a socialist nation. I thought it was alarming that more than half the Democrats sat down for that part of the speech. But it shows you just how far to the left they've moved and what the president wants to do to unify this country and solve these big problems.
We just heard from Nancy Pelosi. I just want to give you a little more reaction, what she thought was missing from last night. I believe she was following along in her papers along the speech last night. This is what she said about what was absent. It's close to your heart. Watch.
The president talked about security in so many different ways, and he totally ignored the gun violence epidemic in our country. Just so saddened by the fact that he made no pass at it, no acknowledgement of it, while representing that he was talking about keeping the American people safe.
You are a victim of gun violence yourself. What do you think about that comment? Should he have said something about it or not?
Well, you know, first of all, the Democrats, and just today they're having a hearing on gun control, and their answer to gun violence is to limit the rights of law-abiding citizens. Frankly, they ought to be focusing on punishing the criminals, not trying to take away the rights of law-abiding citizens. Look, it was people with guns who saved my life and so many others that morning, June of 2017. So, you know, they need to be focusing on how to help more Americans achieve success, have more freedom. You know, and again, their approach is more of a socialist approach of limiting freedom. If you think about it, with health care, they want a government-run health care system where costs are already too high. With guns, they want to take away your Second Amendment rights. On taxes, they want to take away more of the dollars that hard-earned Americans are seeing in their pockets. I mean, families, middle-class Americans are seeing more money in their paychecks because we cut taxes. Their answer is they want to take away more of that money, more of that success. So it shows a difference between our parties. But again, even on national security and securing our border, most Americans, the post-Trump State of the Union speech polls show over 70% of Americans agree with the president on securing the border, which includes everything from technology, more Border Patrol agents, to a physical barrier, including the wall. We need to get this done.
Want to get more reaction from Democrats? Here's Dick Durbin from Illinois. Oh, I'm sorry. This is his written reaction. He says the basic services of our government are at risk because of President Trump's 35-day shutdown and threat to do it again next week. Our national security is at risk because of threats to NATO, a return to an arms race, and a phony caravan crisis at our southern border, all brought on by this president. He writes, when this president says his administration is unlike anything in the history of this country, there is no argument that he is right. It was really something to see these responses last night, and they continue to pour in this morning after the president did actually receive standing ovation and applause from many of those Democrats, the women dressed in white, congresswomen dressed in white, congressmen. He was applauded by them on unemployment for women in this country. He was applauded by them when he referenced the growing number of women in Congress. There were some really interesting moments there.
Yeah, there were, and you know, and when you see Senator Durbin's comments, I don't know what world they're living in when they deny the fact that there's a crisis at our southern border. Look, the president had in the gallery some people who are victims, who have been family members who have been murdered by people who have come into this country illegally. I know personally the mother of Spencer Chauvin in South Louisiana reached out to me during the shutdown. Her son was killed by someone who's here illegally. He was a fire chief, a hero in South Louisiana. It happens all the time, and they're in complete denial. They don't want to support the president. Look, there was a 35-day shutdown where the president from day one had an offer on the table to secure America's border that was put together by our experts who risked their lives for our country. They put a plan together that said what it would take to keep the country safe. The Democrats still haven't put a single counteroffer on the table, not during the entire 35-day shutdown. Now we're only 9 days away from another potential shutdown, and Pelosi is still yet to put a dollar amount on the table to secure the border. So, you know, they don't want to secure the border. They talk and give lip service.
It seems like the White House is getting ready for that possibility, to see what happens on that and how they react. Another hot button story from last night was abortion. Here's how the president characterized the state law that was passed in New York 2 weeks ago yesterday. Watch.
Lawmakers in New York cheered with delight upon the passage of legislation that would allow a baby to be ripped from the mother's womb moments from birth. And then we had the case of the governor of Virginia, where he stated he would execute a baby after birth. To defend the dignity of every person, I am asking Congress to pass legislation to prohibit the late-term abortion of children who can feel pain in the mother's womb.
A little bit of that reminded a lot of people about his comment during the third debate with Hillary Clinton in Las Vegas. You're pushing a bill today related to this matter on what, sir?
Yes, and what the president was talking about yesterday was these laws in New York and Virginia where literally when a baby is born alive, that they still can kill the baby. That's not abortion, that's murder. I don't understand how anybody can say if a baby is born alive, you can still kill the baby. We have a bill Ann Wagner moved that I'm a co-sponsor of that was filed yesterday that said you can't in America kill a baby after it's born. I don't even know why we need to pass that law, but right now they're able to do it. And in New York and Virginia, they're trying to do it. We need to stop that. Whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, you should agree. If a baby is born alive, nobody should have the right to take that life away. And so I'm going to be moving a discharge petition on that so that we can force a vote on the floor and hopefully pass it. The president talked about it last night, and I applaud President Trump for touching on this important issue.
Everybody's got to go on record with a yes or no, don't they?
Everybody ought to be on record, and frankly, everybody ought to be for this. Again, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, how can you say that if a baby is born alive, that you can then still take the life of that baby?
Congressman Steve Scalise, great to get your reaction this morning to the State of the Union address last night. Good to see you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Always great to be with you. Thanks.